Okay, so so this we're getting back to um, doing regularly scheduled webinars here. Oh, why isn't my presentation isn't moving forward? Okay, here we go. So we're going to get back on track with having regularly scheduled trainings. We have not created a full schedule for the rest of the year yet, but I promise there will be something coming out soon. And a bit of a change from when we did webinars in the past. We're going to start having really short little quizzes at the end of each training. We want to make sure that everybody's paying attention and retaining the information that that I'm presenting. These quizzes will be in the form of SurveyMonkey quizzes. Primarily, we'll be doing uh, mostly what do you call multiple choice. They won't be anything difficult. It'll be definitely 9 questions or less. So not anything that's going to be terribly time consuming. So don't worry about it. It'll just help me gauge how well that I'm presenting the material and if we need to do any further reviews. For the remainder of the year, we know for sure that we're definitely going to have to do a problem gambling training because that's part of our contract. We don't have anything else set in stone. So if you have a topic that you would like to suggest, then shoot me an email and let me know. So this month's training is, I'm calling it Back to the Basics, and the reason that we're doing this is there are several QA metrics that really the center as a whole has been missing the mark on, and so we want to kind of review some of those, and it's not the purpose of this is not only just to make sure that you guys are getting the QA points, but also to understand why some of these things are on the scorecard in the first place. So the main focus of today's webinar is going to be on the script. The script was crafted to ensure that if you use it, that you're going to get certain QA metrics. And a lot of our team members have been straying too far from the script and therefore missing certain QA metrics on a consistent basis. So because of that, before I know that for those of you that were trained by me, I generally would say use the script kind of as a basic guideline, but too many people are straying too far from the components in that script. So moving forward, the use of the script is now going to be mandatory to ensure quality and consistency with our calls. So I did want to let you know that there are a few minor tweaks that we've just recently made on the script. So I will be emailing out the new script to you, and Matt will be putting a PDF of the script in the contact marker section of Refer so that you have access to that. I'd advise printing it out, putting it somewhere you can see it until you get used to the flow of the slightly different wording on here. So what I'm going to do is really go line by line in the script and talk about why this particular verbiage is important. So the beginning of the script, it starts off with the opening. Thank you for calling 211. This is Molly, or whatever your name is. How may I help you? Or if this is a callback, instead you will say, this is your callback from 211. Thank you for your patience. This is Molly. How may I help you? And the QA metric that is connected to this portion of the script is used in appropriate greeting. And that metric requires that the specialist begin speaking promptly upon connection, that you thanked the client for contacting 211 or other project, and like by other project I mean problem gambling helpline or any other project that we begin, like for example the Cleveland Department of Public Health, that we're using the appropriate greeting for that. Provide first name and offer to help. So why should you use a scripted greeting? The right type of immediate greeting can open up dialogue with the caller and help to make them feel at ease and willing to divulge important details about their circumstances and needs. And it also provides immediate confirmation of the service so that they know that they've reached the right place, and also the specialist that they have reached. And AIRS standards require that we thank the caller for calling, use our program name, use our own name, and make some sort of offer to help in the greeting. So we crafted this in order to meet those standards. Okay, so the next line, we're moving into the assessment. Okay, you are looking for whatever, fill in the blank. And this goes along with the QA metric, demonstrated active listening. And what we mean by this metric is the specialist listened to the client and through minimal encouragers, paraphrasing, and questions and conversation demonstrated a full understanding of the initial reason for the client's contact prior to asking those demographic questions. And so this, obviously this portion of the script, it's not going to meet that entire metric, but the metric will be partially met by using that part of the script, because you will have clarified the client's need and you will have done so before asking any of those demographic questions of the client. And just a reminder, it's still important to use minimal encouragers, paraphrase, and ask questions throughout the course of the call. So why should I demonstrate active listening? Active listening is a structured form of listening and response that focuses attention on the client and the details of their situation, both spoken and unspoken. This technique helps make the client feel validated, listened to, and important. Active listening builds rapport that promotes mutual understanding and trust throughout the call. It also guides the specialist in deciding what assessment questions to pose, what kind of assistance to search for, what resources to offer, and when lacking resources, what types of alternative solutions might be welcome and appropriate. All right, so the next line in the script is, I can check on that for you. And the QA metric that this goes along with is demonstrated a willingness to help. So this means that you're showing concern for the client by using statements that indicate a desire to help. So for example, I can help you with that. This part of the script will partially satisfy this metric, so you also need to avoid discouraging statements throughout the call and also show concern for the client and their situation. Why should I demonstrate a willingness to help? Because demonstrating a willingness to help, demonstrating to the client that we are willing to help, shows that we care about them and helps them to feel comfortable enough to open up about their situation and their needs. So the next portion of the script is, the next line in the script is, since programs serve different areas and ages, may I ask for the zip code and the age of the person who needs the service? So this QA metric is explained the reason and provided context for asking demographic and other questions. and it means that you're providing an accurate explanation for why any demographic or assessment questions are being asked. So why should I explain why I'm asking demographic or other questions? Giving an accurate explanation of why 211 specialists ask certain demographic questions helps the clients to understand 211's process and ensures that they don't feel like they are being interrogated or participating in a survey that's unrelated to the work of finding specific services to match their individual needs. Likewise, providing context around assessment questions helps build trust and rapport and can reinforce a client's confidence in the understanding of 211 service. So this is always important, but I just kind of wanted to break away from the PowerPoint for just a moment and just kind of remind you when we're handling problem gambling calls, one of the things that it really makes me cringe when I hear is the veteran question in the context of problem gambling, because it sounds really, 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 really out of place unless that person has some sort of context as to why you're asking. So we always need to explain why we're asking demographic questions, but that's one case in particular where it's especially important because it just sounds like it's coming out of left field. So we want to make sure for those problem gambling calls that we're relaying to the caller that there is a high incidence of problem gambling among those who've served in the military, and so there are specialized programs available to help them out. All right. So,
Molly, can I ask one question? It's
sure.
Judy.
Yes, absolutely.
One of the things that I tend to say to the client is, so that I can try to find something that is convenient for you, can I ask you your zip code? Also, that's not acceptable?
No, we're going to go directly by the script because, you know, we do want to find something that's convenient, but really we want to find something that they're going to be eligible for is the first step. So we're going to be firm now about sticking exactly to the script.
Okay.
Moving forward. Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, so the next line is, okay, that's whatever the zip code, 44146. Is that in Bedford or Bedford Heights? Or insert whatever cities are appropriate. So the QA metric that goes along with this is appropriately gathered customer demographic information. And what this means is you're asking and confirming the zip code, age, and other pertinent information. For example, vet status, insurance status. Well, actually, it shouldn't say insurance status. I've got to update that. It should be if they need assistance with prescription medications, anything like that. Any of those required demographic questions, whatever's required in the access site that you are opening up in Refer. Those that any information that's required to perform an accurate and proper search.
Hey, Molly.
Yes.
It's Mark. Hey, what if the client lives in, when you punch in the zip code and you got 6 or 7 cities, is it appropriate to ask what city do you live in instead of reading all of them?
Oh, okay. Yeah. You don't, in that circumstance, you don't have to read all 6 cities that are in there. Just confirm which city it is.
Okay.
That's fine. That would be very that would be a very long sentence there. Okay, so why do I need to repeat back the zip code and verify the caller city? So the demographic information that we collect can help us find the most fitting resources for the person in need situation, and also performs an initial eligibility-based filtering of the specialist's search results. And because of this information's importance to the accurate search functionality of Refer, it's the expectation that all questions are asked on each call, except in cases where the client's mental or emotional state or the severity or complexity of the immediacy of the problem preempt the collection of any information that does not directly aid in addressing the client's needs. In such situations, asking unnecessary demographic information could damage the trust and rapport established between the client and the specialist, creating the incorrect perception that 211's primary concern is data gathering rather than one-on-one resource navigation. So that's a really wordy way to say, like, ask all the demographics. They are required. However, asterisk, if someone's in extreme distress, then it is not required to ask all of those demographics. We want to make sure that we are addressing any sort of like very immediate needs, such as like someone who might be suicidal. We don't need to ask all of those demographic questions, just what is necessary in order to get them connected to the immediate help that they need. Okay, thank you. So the QA metric that this is connected with is was polite and courteous. And what we mean by polite and courteous was that you generally demonstrated basic conversational etiquette by using words and phrases such as may I, please, thank you, you're welcome, etc. You offer an apology for repeats, sought permission to gain more information, used the client's name if provided, apologized and or properly use the mute function to acknowledge or conceal accidental crosstalk with other employees or other distracting incidental sounds such as throat clearing, coughing, yawning, sneezing, and that you attempted conversation to put the client at ease. So obviously saying thank you once is only going to give you partial credit for this metric, but as long as you continue on to use those polite words and phrases, then you should be good on that. Why should I be polite and courteous? Being polite conveys respect, emphasizes our professionalism, creating a good impression for 211 and United Way, and it also makes clients feel properly cared for and comfortable with our ability to assess them. All right.
Hey, Molly, can I ask a question real quick on that one?
You sure can.
Thank you. Going back to the client's name part of it, oftentimes I can't understand what the heck their name is, honestly. So is that something that if they do provide their name to us, that we really, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, if I can't understand the person's name, I have a real hard time. I don't want to say, can you give me your name again? Can you spell it out for me? If you follow what I'm saying, oftentimes we can't hear the name clearly when the caller presents us to it. So will that hurt us if the caller does use their name and we do not reply using their name back?
I would just ask them to like apologize and then ask to repeat one more time. Like, I'm so sorry I didn't catch that. Do you mind repeating for me? As far as the using the individual's name, also just kind of another one of my own personal pet peeves is like when I call somewhere for any sort of customer service, if somebody uses my name over and over and over again, it's really it really gets on my nerves. It's kind of offensive, almost like they're being too familiar with me. So I would kind of keep that name usage to either once or twice throughout the duration of the call. When I was taking calls, I would try to use their name at one point immediately after they gave it to me, and then once at the very end of the call, just like, oh, thank you so much for calling, Mary. And use that as part of my closing, but not overusing it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right. So so this next piece of the script, this next line, is something that we actually just tweaked as of yesterday, in fact. So Michelle and Mark were out at a meeting in the community and got some feedback about how we are asking that veteran question. And so moving forward, the way that we're going to ask the veteran question is this. So sometimes there are additional services for those who have served in the military. Has anyone in the household ever served in the military? And the reason that we're tweaking this portion of the script is that some folks who have served in the military are still reluctant to call themselves veterans for a variety of reasons. Sometimes that might be due to the length of time that they've served or due to their discharge status, and those folks might still be eligible for some services. So we just want to ask the question in a way that we're not going to alienate anybody who might be able to benefit from the Help to Veterans program. So that's why we're slightly tweaking this. So again, it's sometimes there are additional services for those who've served in the military. Has anyone in the household ever served in the military? So as far as QA is concerned, this is connected to, again, to that metric that we talked about earlier, explained reason and provided context for asking demographics and other questions. And so I've already kind of talked a bit about that metric, so we'll just skip through that. And this as well, it's just kind of a repeat of what I said earlier about the importance of explaining why you're asking demographic questions. All right, and then again, another thank you in the script. So again, this relates to being polite and courteous. So if you're using the script, you've already said thank you twice, so you're well on your way to getting the point for this metric. All right. So the next line, while I search for that, I want to tell you about a program here at 211 that helps with accessing free or low-cost medications. Does anyone in your household need assistance with the cost of prescription medications? So here's another new thing in the script. Previously, we had asked how folks had heard about 211, which we were not even collecting that data anymore, so no need to have that in the script. So instead, kind of as a transitional phrase from the the beginning part of the call where you've clarified the client's need and started with the assessment and began to get that demographic information. Now here's the point in the call where you're transitioning into going into refer and beginning your search. And so this is a nice place to ask this question about about kind of screening to see if the person might be eligible or interested for the Med Refer program. I've heard a lot of folks asking this question towards the end of the call, and a lot of times, the person is wrapping up or they hang up before you can get this question in. So inserting this right before you start doing the search, it's kind of like a nice transition and also ensures that you're able to ask this before the caller disconnects. And we've crafted the language around this so that you are explaining why you're asking this question. I want to tell you about a program that here at 211 that helps with accessing free or low-cost medication. And then, does anyone in your household need assistance with the cost of prescription medication? Also, we've used this language to make sure that you're presenting what MedRefer does accurately to your caller. Okay. So why do I need to ask this question in this way? So giving an accurate explanation of why we ask certain demographic questions helps our clients to understand our process. So this, again, is the same as what we've reviewed earlier. And then also we want to make sure that we're accurately describing what the MedRefer program can do. And even if the caller doesn't need assistance with any sort of prescription medication, they might have a friend, relative, or neighbor that could benefit from the program. And so we want to advertise this in an accurate and in a positive light. All right, so next part of the script is the referral section, and here's where we're saying I found a program that may work. And this correlates with the QA metric, remains non-judgmental, avoided personal opinions, advice, religious or political statements. And so this statement partially satisfies this metric because you're introducing some information for your client's consideration and not telling them what they should do or what they have to do. All right. Why shouldn't I tell a client what they should do? An important errors standard and basic concept in the information and referral field is to be non-judgmental. And this allows us to recognize a client's right to self-determination, to judge for themselves based on their own values. This means that the client has the right to decide what to do about their situation. By refraining from giving advice and expressing personal opinions, we are allowing the client to decide for themselves how they will handle their situation. All right. Do you have a pen and paper to take down the information? That's okay. I can wait a moment or send it to you in an email or text. Thank you. This portion of the script correlates with the QA metric, used appropriate tone, pace, volume, and inflection throughout the call. You remained, which means you remained welcoming, friendly, and personable. When necessary, adapted tone and pace to either match, complement, or de-escalate the caller's tone and pace, and if necessary, employed strategies to focus or refocus the client on needs or resources and or maintain control of the conversation or contact. So obviously that part of the script doesn't satisfy that entire metric, but it does partially satisfy it as you're making sure that that person is ready to receive the information that you're going to about to provide them. All right. Why do I need to be sure that the caller is ready to take down the information that I'm providing them? Using an appropriate pace for conversation, which should be set by the client, allows the client to feel in control and gives them time to consider options presented, and it reduces unnecessary callbacks because the caller missed important details.
Molly, can you clarify how the information that we email versus text, how the body of that is different? Do they get as much information each way?
That is a great question. When you email somebody information out of Refer, they are able, the information that they get, it's everything that you're seeing in Refer other than any unpublished notes. So like every little bit of detail they're getting from the email. Whereas with the texts, they are not getting as much information. I actually personally much prefer that you make that offer of email first, because they're getting all the details and all the benefits of all the information that their resource team has gathered about that program. Whereas with the texts, they're going to see name of the agency, address, phone number, and the website. So it doesn't even give you any detail about what the service is. So if you had a caller, say, that needed help with like 3 completely different things, and then you texted them the information, they're not going to know which program to call for which thing.
Thank you. That's what I thought it was, and that is, I have been encouraging emails.
Yeah.
Okay.
I much prefer those. Okay. All right. So then the next part in the script is if it were an unmet need. So I want to explore all avenues that could possibly be helpful. Could you tell me a little more about the situation and what happened? And then from there, just kind of in parentheses, some instructions, search for resources that address the underlying cause and problem solve with the caller. So this would correlate with the QA metric attempted to establish dialogue and asked correct questions to determine client needs. And the definition of this metric, specialist continued using active listening techniques and critical thinking skills throughout the contact to acknowledge clients' entire situation by asking open-ended and close-ended questions to probe for more information. The specialist recognized, clarified, and addressed any stated or unstated additional needs revealed in the course of the assessment, conversation, or on a phone call through audible environmental clues, such as a client is having trouble breathing or a child is crying in the background, etc. So why should I probe to find out more about my client's situation? There may be other factors about their situation that they did not initially disclose that might impact their ability to receive assistance for their stated need. And also, approximately a third of our callers have needs in multiple categories. And your caller might not be eligible for something like, say, rent payment assistance. However, they may also need help with their medications, and they may be able to pay their rent if they can get some financial assistance with their medications. All right. So the next line.
I have one other question,
Sure.
which is, so the first time that we say to them, I found a program that may work.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't really have any, and I'm thinking of an example being PRC,
Mm-hmm.
and they need rent.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't ask them prior to telling them about that program if they have an eviction notice? You would just give it to them, but then you would ask the questions for others you give?
No, we're going to, you want to have a real, I mean, obviously with this script, it's only like certain portions of your conversation that you're having. We can't, like, we couldn't even begin to imagine how to script out an entire call because every single conversation is going to be a little bit different. But we need to ask some of those clarifying questions all the way in the beginning of the call before we're even asking for demographic information. So like if somebody says, oh, I need help with rent, before you even jump into those demographics, you want to get an understanding of what's happening. Oh, I'm
Right.
really sorry that you've fallen behind on your rent. Can you tell me a little bit more about your situation? And then you may need to ask some questions along the way. And so we know as far as rent assistance programs that oftentimes programs are going to need for that individual to have either a 3-day notice or an actual summons to appear in housing court. So you're going to ask some of those questions way in the beginning before you even get down to this portion of the script.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. All right. So here we are. We're getting towards the very end of the call. Post-referral, you're going to summarize the next steps for the caller. So after you've given them all the referrals that you're going to give them, it's important to just kind of very briefly summarize what you talked about. Now, of course, if you've only given them one referral, you don't need to summarize your steps. You told them like the one program that they're eligible for is at agency XYZ, and then you're not going to just like parrot yourself. But if you've given that caller more than one referral, then you want to very briefly summarize those steps, and then ask, do you feel that you have enough information to get started? And then hopefully they're going to reply yes. If not, then you're going to continue to address their questions. But assuming that they're going to say yes at this point, finally at the end of the call, then great. Is there any other need that I can help you with today? And so the QA metric that this is going to satisfy is client has a clear plan to move forward. And what that means is after providing referrals and prior to ending the call, you walk the client through a chronological step-by-step summary of the plan created by the client and you. And you confirm that the client feels that they have enough information to undertake the plan. Why does my client need...
Hey, Molly, I have a question. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
So, when we're asking these questions, we're reviewing things with them, asking them about medications, then they need help and all that. Mm-hmm. We're going to end up having a call that's going to be longer than 9 minutes because we're supposed to do our calls between 7 and 9 minutes. So isn't that going to increase the amount of time we're on our calls?
There's not. The important thing is that you are hitting all the metrics in the QA guide. It's less important the amount of time that you're on the call, because if you're following these metrics, and not just the things that I'm calling about or that I'm talking about today, but the entire guide of the metrics, then that's going to that's really going to make sure that the call is an appropriate length, because you're doing an appropriate assessment, you're providing enough information. However, you're controlling the call and not just letting the caller ramble on. You're moving the call forward in a kind of a linear fashion where it makes sense, and you're controlling things. So I would not worry about length of time on the call so much as making sure that you're following the points in the QA guide. Does that make sense? Like we're not Time Warner.
Yes.
We're not Time Warner, so it's not like you have to have your calls between 6 and 7 minutes. You should be focusing on what's in the QA guide. And making sure that that you're hitting these points as best you can.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Yep.
Molly, can I jump in with one just while we're doing this real quick?
Yes.
Of course, thank you. All right, now this is like assuming, I think this is like more of an ideal. So as I hear this, we're talking about callers that are like cooperative. Let's talk about problematic callers where when we try to ask them any of this stuff, that pisses them off. They get angry with us, so
sure.
At that point, we do have what I'm saying. So we do have the ability, we don't, in my mind, at least the way I try to approach my caller is if I'm escalating the caller, I'm going to back off and I'm not going to push as hard. Is that acceptable?
Yes, no,
you follow what I'm saying, right? I mean, because we have a lot of difficult callers that are not the nicest people in the world.
Of course.
Or a certain percentage.
Barry, I would say that that's not just acceptable. That's like what you should do. So if you've asked a few questions and it's clearly making the caller angry and agitated, and it's and you're losing control of that call, then that's a situation where you need to to stop with the demographics and try to just de-escalate the caller and do what you need to do to move forward.
And just help the person.
So
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
if somebody's
Okay.
screaming and swearing at you and they don't want to answer any of your questions, and don't further agitate them.
No, I know. That makes common sense. I just wanted to clarify. That's all.
But
Thank
yeah,
you very much.
yes.
Okay,
No.
thanks.
All right. Okay, so then the next portion of the script is regarding follow-up. And you won't need to do this too many times because there are not a whole heck of a lot of our calls that are fall into the requirements of our follow-up policy. However, if you are talking to somebody and you feel that the situation warrants a follow-up, you're going to say, may I or may someone call you back to see how you're doing and if your needs were met. And if the call goes to voicemail or if someone else answers it, is it okay to leave a message? So the QA metric that this correlates with is offered a follow-up with the client if applicable, recognized when follow-up is needed based on 211 follow-up policy, gathered callback information, and established estimated time of return call. So why should I offer a follow-up? Following up with a caller in crisis or with a complex need is important in community resource navigation so that we can make sure that clients ultimately receive services they are pursuing. Follow-ups may also provide an opportunity to provide advocacy on behalf of the client or reveal changes to the social service landscape that require investigation by the resource department. Follow-up is also the best and usually only way to construct any quantifiable measures of 211 success at providing clients with accurate, usable information. And then finally, last portion is the closing, which is thank you for calling 211. If you need further assistance or if this information does not work out, please call us back. We're here 24 hours a day. So the QA metric, obviously, that this goes along with is used appropriate closing. What that metric, the definition of that metric is used script with offer of further assistance, encouraged client to contact 211 or other project again if the referral does not work out, thanked the client for contacting 211 or other project, and where scripted closing is not appropriate, you customize the closing based on the outcome of the contact. So this is directly out of our QA guide. Why do you need to use a scripted closing? It prepares the caller for ending the call. It ensures that nothing has been left out and reminds the caller to contact 211 or other project again if the referrals don't work out or if they have another related or unrelated need. Thanks the caller for calling 211 or other project to show that we appreciate their business. A good closing ensures nothing has been left out and that the client is comfortable with ending the call. The client is encouraged to call back if referrals do not work out and reminded that they can call 211 or the other project again if they need further assistance. This reinforces the service's constant availability. It leaves clients with an impression of professionalism and brands our program name 211 or Problem Gambling Helpline or any other additional contract that we pick up. I wanted to note that our closing script was crafted specifically to meet AIRS standards. So this is actually something that quite a few specialists are missing the closing and really the piece that people are leaving out, whoops, I wanted to go backwards, hold on, is if this information doesn't work out, to please call us back. And I just want to remind you all how important that piece of the script is, because number one, if the information doesn't work out, we want to help that person create another plan. But also, if that information doesn't work out, we want to make sure that we're able to then send a transmittal to the resource team, and so that they can reach out to the agency and just make sure that the information that we have in the database is accurate and up to date, and that we're not sending more people to a program that's not going to be able to help. All right. So that's my review of the script. The new script will be sent out at some point after this webinar, maybe not until after the next group has their session in the afternoon, but you will be receiving that new script, and also we will be adding that into the contact marker section of Refer so that you always have quick access to it. And another reminder as well, so all of these QA metrics and the definitions are taken right directly out of our QA guide, which is on the 211 staff page. Just a reminder that it's there, and if you want to review it and see exactly what those definitions of each metric are, I encourage you to do that. When the management team holds calibration sessions, we will have that QA guide right next to us, because sometimes there are there's some disagreement on if a metric is met or not. And we will pull out that guide and we will read the definition, and it just kind of, that helps us to refocus and helps us to decide if a metric was in fact met or not.
Oh, Molly, excuse me, Molly. Oh, I'm sorry. You go on,
go ahead.
Carol. Oh, yes. Just trying to find out if I want to make a copy of that script, which I usually do have like something posted. Do we use that key fob, our new key fob that was given to us for our new copier? Does that work?
Yes.
Same system?
Yep.
Okay.
It does.
Well, good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And we'll, for anybody that's on site, we'll go ahead and just print them out by the end of the day.
Real good.
For
Thank you.
everyone. Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
thanks.
Sure.
Molly, I can't open, I don't know why, but I can't open a PDF file. So if you could send it, and I have to print off my laptop, so if you could send that to me, then I can, in some other format, then I would be able to print it.
Okay.
Could you also make it bigger for those of us that are visually impaired?
Yeah, Tracy, if you
And
want it
dark.
blown up, I can put it on. I'll work with you directly, and
Okay, thank you.
figure out what's gonna what you'll be able to see the best.
Yeah, thanks.
Yep,
Molly,
absolutely.
can you go back and talk a little bit more about when you send a text or you send an email that you still have to go over the information with the caller, please?
Yes. Oh, that is very important, Michelle. So this actually it's an issue on the phones. It's an even bigger issue with chat that we found. But part of our job, a big portion of our job, not even just a tiny part, but a big portion is for us to do a proper assessment and not just say, oh, you need a food pantry. Here, I'm going to email you a list of 87 food pantries, because that's not really helping that individual. That's overwhelming them with information that may or may not be appropriate. So if you're sending out an email and you're like, oh, well, whatever, it's got all the information in there anyway, it's still our job to ensure that anything that we're sending to that individual is going to actually be very likely to work for them. So you still have to review the information that's in there, review a description of the program, eligibility requirements, what they need to take with them. So this is all important in the call, and it's important with the QA as well. It just I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I'm kind of jumping a little bit ahead of myself here, but we are going to be beginning to move towards providing chat 24/7. And so I think a few of you have already watched the video that I put into Degreed regarding the updated QA metrics for chat. And so that's addressed in that video as well. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Hey, Molly, let me jump in real quick on Michelle follow-up, please.
Okay.
It makes perfect sense for an individual caller when we go to send the email. How about an organization like a case manager? That's different in my mind. You know, we don't have to, I want your opinion, I guess, in this conversation. Get a case manager that calls, they want food pantries, they're going to share it with their fellow staff and everything like that. We don't have to go down everything.
Yes, we do. And we don't want to send them a list for them to share with their staff, because if we send them a list, then they're going to have some sort of printed material.
Right.
And by the time that they get around to distributing it to whoever it is that needs it, that information might be outdated. So we want to encourage those social workers to either contact us if they have like an individual client that has a need at the moment that we can provide them with some assistance with, or have them encourage their client to call us directly, because it's really not, I mean, we know how things work out in the community. A social worker gets a list of potential services, and then they just hand out that same list to every single one of their clients. And you know, that's not helpful. It's not helpful because it may not, where the information may be relevant to one client in their situation at a specific time, it might not be helpful for another client at a different time in a different situation. So I would, in that circumstance, try to get some details about the individual that they're working with that needs the help, and then just tell them, please, you know, don't create a list, because this list, you know, we don't do lists anymore. We don't provide any sort of like printed guide, just because information's rapidly changing, and each individual has a unique situation that could impact eligibility or appropriateness of different programs. So we really want to discourage that.
You know, Molly, I say that to some of those case managers and social workers, but they'll say, well, can I at least have a couple? And it's just like, well, do you have any specific client in mind at the moment? And they don't, but they insist on something. So I'll say, well, give me an average age and give me your most usable zip code, and maybe I can give you 2 or 3, you know, so that they're at least getting something, but then reiterate what you said before.
And I think that's a great way to handle it, Tracy, because we don't want to, you know, we want to provide customized plan for each individual that's calling, or for each individual that needs help. However, we also don't want to get in the business of like withholding information or you know, just being rude to folks. So I think that's a great suggestion on how to deal with that.
And maybe if you guys could have some printed verbiage on how to handle that, it might be helpful, because sometimes some of the newer people, they'll come up to me and they don't know how to say it or what to say. So if you could have some maybe simple dialogue they could use, and that would be helpful, I think.
Okay. All right.
The other
So
the
right
other
now,
thing that
I'm sorry, Judy. We're
it's okay.
really running out of time. I only have a half hour, and I still have a lot of material to get through. So I'm going to ask that everybody please hold all questions until the end. If there's time during this session, then I'll entertain any questions that come through. If there's not time, then just send them in an email. So we're going to move forward. So the next kind of segment of this training, I want to address our elevator speeches. So I had asked everyone to shoot me a little email with their 211 elevator speech, and this is really important because, sometimes our callers or people at outreach events or people that you meet outside of work are going to ask you, what is 211? And as 211 staff members, we need to be our own best marketers, advertisers, and cheerleaders. We are professionals. The jobs that we do are important, and they impact people in a positive way every day. So I want to highlight some of my favorites of the elevator speeches that were submitted. And first one is Barry. So Barry said, 211 is a 24/7 service of the United Way, and we provide information and resources to help anyone who calls after assessing what situation that they're in. We have a resource department that is constantly updating the resources we provide so that we can give the caller accurate and up-to-the-minute resources to help them with any need they present us with. So I just kind of wanted to point out that I like how Barry highlighted the fact that we do an assessment. That's really important. We are professionals, and that is a very key part of what we do. And I also like that Barry highlighted our resource department, and that our resources that we're providing are very up to date, so that people can really trust that accuracy in the information that we're giving. All right. Next one is Judy's. Judy was on a very long elevator ride, maybe going up to the terminal tower, but I still really liked it. So Judy says, 211 is a 24-hour number to find out about all kinds of health, social services, and government programs that may be able to help you. You'll talk to a specialist who will ask questions to determine, I'm sorry, my phone is ringing and I lost my place, to determine what kinds of help you want and need. Then we will let you know what places may be able to provide that help and give you a lot of information about the specific services that you're interested in, and let you know how to contact these programs. So in a nutshell, 211 talks with you to determine what your situation is, what services may be able to help you, and how you can get connected with these sources of help. And all of this is free just by calling 211 24 hours a day. So again, Judy referenced how we're doing an assessment before we're providing some information, and then she really highlighted all of the kind of steps that we're doing, that we're really providing folks with all the details that they're going to need to follow through and access the programs that we refer them to. All right. Next one, this is from Suzanne Yarborough, and she says, 211 is a link to Health and Human Services in our community. Many people call us for a variety of assistance, sometimes a food pantry, shelter, healthcare services, just to name a few. Sometimes people call for help and aren't sure what they need. With each call, we help assess their situation and put them in contact with agencies listed in our community resource database to help them with their current needs. And what was unique about Suzanne's elevator speech that I really liked was how she pointed out that sometimes folks are calling us and they don't even know what they need. And so, we are assessing their situation and helping them to helping to get them in contact with the programs that are able to meet their current needs. And then I think this is the last one. This one is from Nikki. And Nikki says 211 is a 24-hour a day, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week confidential information and referral service. Many counties across the country have a 211 service. Our goal is to link clients in need of resources to the appropriate community agencies. These may include food pantries, utility help, or rent. However, our job is to have a conversation with the client to determine their individual needs, and we're always here to help. So again, and kind of a common thread between all of these elevator speeches that I've highlighted is that we're doing an assessment, we're having a conversation, we're providing information based on that individual's needs. So, when we're talking to our callers or to really anybody that's asking us about 211, these are just some things that you should think about when crafting your response. So I have some other tips as well when talking about 211. We want to avoid any negative language. During some of our recent calibrations, we've heard some specialists say things like, we don't provide direct service, or we just provide referrals, or we're only a referral agency. So we really, really want to avoid that kind of negative talk about what we do. So instead, we want to focus on what we do. And so some things to just kind of keep in mind is that 211 is staffed by professionals with backgrounds in social services. We assess individual situations. We help our clients create a plan. And our resource team ensures that the information in our database is accurate and up to date. And then one more important tip, use the service description that's in Refer. So write in Refer. If you're having any sort of difficulty with kind of crafting a response when somebody is like, well, what is 211? You can just find it in Refer. It says in our service description, offers confidential assistance with meeting health and human service needs in Cuyahoga County. A 211 community resource navigation specialist will talk with the client, assess their situation, identify and explain potential resources within the local network of agencies, programs, and services available to help, and then work with the client to develop an individualized plan based on the client's particular need or situation. The specialist may provide information about a range of services, including food, shelter, healthcare, substance abuse, mental health, recreational, and social activities. The specialist will also attempt to provide extra guidance and problem solving as needed, identifying potential barriers to accessing service, and if necessary, following up with the client to check back on their progress. All right. So now that's kind of the bulk of our back to the basics, and for the remaining portion of this webinar, we're just going to kind of highlight a few quick updates. And so the first one is in regards to the Aging and Disability Resource Network, aka ADRN. So soon you will no longer need to answer that ADRN line. We have been answering that line for years without having any sort of contract for it or getting compensated for it in any way. So this is, I just want to reiterate here, this is not a newly lost contract. It's just something that we've been doing out of the kindness of our hearts. So now what's going to be happening soon, and I don't have an exact date of when this is going to happen other than just soon, but when people call the ADRN number, they're going to reach an IVR that asks what area that they're in, and then when the callers select the option for their area, then they're going to be transferred to their local aging and disability resource center. So we don't get a whole ton of calls on that ADRN line, but at least that is one less thing that you guys are going to have to worry about beginning soon. All right. The Cleveland Department of Public Health, there was a little bit of a delay with getting that contract signed and publicly filed. So it did not launch last month on 2/11 as planned. It will be launched very soon, and you'll be notified via email of the official start date. I do not know if this whole situation with the coronavirus will make this move any slower or quicker. But just please pay attention to your emails. That's how we will notify you when it officially starts. All right. Wanted to review the technical policy with everyone. So if you are having, and this primarily is when you're working remotely, because if you're here on site, you have access to either Candy or a member of one of the managers here to help you through this, or IT department. But if you're having technical issues that you are unable to resolve on your own within 5 minutes or less, then you must call the supervisor line. So, we all know how to do some very basic troubleshooting. Sometimes it's just a matter of closing an application and reopening it and just doing some minor things like that. So, we want you to try to do a little troubleshooting, those real basic troubleshooting things on your own. But if it's taking you more than 5 minutes, then please call the supervisor line and let them know. And if you're working remotely and you are in a technical state for more than 1 hour, you're going to need to log off. And you can log back in either once you can log back in once a supervisor or IT staff member is able to assist you. And so I want to clarify and give a little more explanation about this 1 hour policy. So after that 1 hour, you have the following options. So either come into the office, and just a reminder that the office is only open Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. until 6 p.m. So if your technical issue is happening during those hours, you can come into the office to work. If your technical issue is related to a power or internet outage, then you may go to an alternate location to work, as long as it meets all of the requirements that are outlined in the work at home policy. Just a reminder on that, if you choose to do that, you're not going to be compensated for travel time. If neither one of those first two options apply and you have PTO, then you are required to use it for the remaining portion of your shift that you did not work. And if you do not have PTO, then you will not be paid for the portion of your shift that you did not work. All right, so I referenced a little bit earlier about chat training. So the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, which are the funders of the Problem Gambling Helpline, they've asked us to extend our chat hours to 24/7. And so At this point, we tentatively would like to go 24/7 with problem gambling chat on April 1st. So that's a tentative start date at this point. So then what will happen after we see how extending 24/7 chat goes for problem gambling, then we will move to offering 211 chat to 24/7 as well. We don't have any expected launch date for 24/7 211 chat yet. We want to see what happens with problem gambling first before we jump in and add 211 chats 24/7. So we're going to monitor it and see how it goes, and see if any sort of adjustments need to be made. And then, so during this month, you guys are getting a whole lot of training, because not only do we have this going on right now, but we're going to be working on getting everyone trained on chat this month. So for anybody that has not done it before, we're going to get you up to speed on that. So I had also referenced this earlier. We've updated the excuse me, the QA metrics for chat, and so I have a training recorded in a video in Degreed that highlights the changes. And spoiler alert, like the whole center section, the process section of the QA guide it's exactly the same. So the things that are a little bit different are primarily like procedural sorts of things. So you'll see that once you view the video. We will be uploading a copy of the QA guide for chat on 211oh.org so that all staff have access to that as well. So Matt Finley is on vacation this week, so he will get on that once he's back in the office. Navigation specialists who have not done chat before are going to watch a chat tutorial in InContact University. And I want to show you, let me show you, I'm going to show you briefly how to access that. Hold on just a second. Okay, you're going to go to university.incontact.com, and you're going to use your InContact credentials in order to log in. So your email address and then whatever your InContact password is. You're going to go to Courses, and it's course 1621. All right, which is ACD Max Agent. All right, so this is, for those of you who have not taken this course before, it'll say take course instead of retake course here, and you're going to click on there. You will notice that there are, like once this loads up, okay, there is, okay, so there's a menu here at the left-hand side of the screen. Most of this you've already totally familiar with. You're going to scroll all the way down and just review the chat section of this. Accept the chat, quick replies, concurrent chats, and try it out chat. And don't worry, don't feel like you have to memorize what I'm saying right now, because there's going to be detailed and step-by-step instructions so that you know how to do this. Once you have completed this brief training through InContact University, all new chatters are going to have one-on-one practice time. And so staff that work during the day are going to work one-on-one with Candy, and staff that work evenings and weekends are going to work with me. Just kind of stay tuned for that. For those of you that work evenings and weekends, I'm going to be focusing on doing that during the last week of the month, the last full week of the month, and maybe those couple of days at the end. I think the month ends on a Tuesday, if I'm remembering correctly. So the last full week and then those extra days will be when I pull you off the phones to do these practice with chat. Okay. So we're going to begin QAing chats on April 1st. So initially, this is only going to be for providing you with feedback and coaching, and this is not going to impact your objectives and key results, or as HR likes to refer to them as your OKRs. And then also during this time, we might tweak some of the QA metrics in chat metrics if we see that it's necessary. So, we understand that this is new. We crafted the chat metrics as best that we could, but also, understand that, sometimes once things get into practice, there might have to be some tweaks or updates or changes, and we'll be fully transparent about any change that is made. So we're just kind of testing the waters with this. None of this is going to impact your OKRs, and then we will let you know once QA chats will begin impacting your OKRs. A reminder for all smoking cessation referrals. We are now offering callers the opportunity to participate in a research study regarding the effectiveness of the referrals that we provide them and their experience with 211. So what you will do, if someone's interested, you're going to go to the contact marker section, check the smoking cessation checkbox, fill out the form, and email it to 211supervisor@unitedwaycleveland.org. And participants will be compensated in the form of a $25 gift card. So I think for those of you who were around for smoke-free homes, you know that probably none of our callers are going to be interested unless we let them know about the compensation. All right, so here's what the big hubbub in the community right now is the coronavirus. And, this slide is just a copy and paste, just copy and pasted directly from the email that you've all received a few days ago from 211 Updates. So at this time, if you have any caller that is looking for information or has questions regarding the coronavirus, you're going to use the taxonomy disease/disability information using the target coronavirus. All right, for right now, that is will direct you to a special hotline that is set up through the Ohio Department of Health. So Matt Trahan has been our point of contact, and I'm acting as a backup for when he's unavailable, to participate in the Joint Information Center. They are also more casually referring to it as the JIC. And essentially what this is it's a group of folks from representing different entities in the county, such as the Cleveland Health Department, the Cuyahoga Health Department, the different hospital systems, police, fire, mayor's office. So all of these different entities are all kind of coming together in a group and making sure that we are all providing a consistent message to the community to help control rumors and also to help build confidence in how our community is handling the coronavirus. So for right now, all of these entities are directing folks to the either the state hotline or the website through the Ohio Department of Health. That is in refer. This is a rapidly changing situation, so we do expect that at some point there may be some additional information that we will need to relay to our callers. There may be some additional resources. There may be some changes in protocol. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen yet. We kind of got to play it by ear and see how everything pans out. So what's really critical right now is to make sure that you are following any instructions that the resource team has put into refer, and that you are paying very close attention to any emails that you're getting. So 211 updates will be sending out any updates about how this information is going to be listed in refer, any new process that we might have to take with handling these calls. So please just make sure, I mean, you should always be reading your emails, but like especially right now, during this pandemic, like please make sure that you're reading your emails and make sure that you are reviewing the information and refer. Don't just give information out of memory, because things will end up changing throughout the course of this pandemic. So just read, refer, read your emails, and we'll keep you updated as anything changes. I know I saw Katie on the call earlier. Katie, I know that you worked with me on Flu on Call in the past. I just kind of wanted to talk about that for a moment. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, Flu on Call is a project or kind of maybe project isn't the right word, but it's a kind of an emergency plan where the CDC has partnered with United Way Worldwide, and then United Way Worldwide has partnered with a handful of 211s across the country that were kept on retainer in the event of a pandemic, and could potentially activate the Flu on Call line. Now, what that is, it's an 800 number that folks would call to get information about the pandemic. At this point, I was on a webinar yesterday with AIRS. At this point, United Way Worldwide does not, they may be enacting Flu on Call. However, the first step is going to just be virtual assistance online. So they will have frequently asked questions and information accessed online. At this point, at this early stage in the game, they don't have any plans to involve any of the smaller local 211s, but if this pandemic does expand and get worse, then that is a possibility that they could enact that. But for right now, the first step would just be for that information to be given online. So if there's any changes in that, I'll be sure to let you all know. We've got like 2 minutes left, so I can take one question right now, and then if anybody else has additional questions, just send them to me in an email. So anybody have a question?
Molly?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just a question on chat. So I haven't done chat before, so I normally speak to my callers during the day. So with chat, is there a message that comes in the course of my day that will say that there's like a chat call coming in? Is that how it works?
Yeah. So with chats, those are presented to you in Contact, just in the same way that a call would be. So it's not like you're logging out or logging into any separate platform. It's just those chats will go to the next available specialist, and you will get a tone in your headset alerting you that there is a chat, and then you'll also get a pop-up on your screen saying that a chat is being presented to you, and then there'll be a little button that you click to accept it. So you'll be able to see that once you go through the training, and then Candy will be working with you to make sure that you're comfortable with doing it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up since it's 10:59. If you do have any questions about any of the material covered, or or anything else, just go ahead and shoot me an email, and I will get back to you. So thanks everybody for attending, and we'll catch you next time.